There's a disease going around the planet that's not being talked about enough. It's so catastrophic that it can only be compared to the Black Plague. It's called chytridiomycosis, caused by Chytrid fungus, and it's destroying amphibian populations all around the world. Chytridiomycosis is nothing less than an apocalypse. It has impacted 700 species and in some cases has a mortality rate of 100%. 100%, dude. It's one of the biggest threats to the existence of amphibians as a whole, and it's not being talked about. So today, I'm gonna give you the breakdown, tell you what this fungus is, where it came from, and what you can personally do to save these species from extinction. Before we get into it, I want to address a question you might be thinking. Why should I care about this? Maybe a harsh way to put it, but there's a good amount of people who learn about this fungus and think, hey, natural selection is going to naturally select. Amphibians are not really on my radar. My work is done. Well, think again, because with that attitude, this could potentially indirectly affect you one day. Frogs and amphibians as a whole are obviously cute. There's one reason to want to not watch them go extinct. Those big eyes are to die for. But also, there is so much research done on amphibians. You know how I end my videos like, stay curious, the world has a lot for us to learn. If that quote had a picture next to it, it would be of amphibian research. Amphibians got a lot of cool shit going on in their skin, different bioactive compounds that have antiviral, antimicrobial, anti-cancer properties. Research on frogs is helping develop new antibiotics as we speak. Some amphibians, like salamanders, can regenerate parts of their body, which is cool as fuck. Some even their spinal cord and heart tissue, and you can bet your ass scientists are looking into that. They're also great bioindicators, which means you can tell when something's wrong in an ecosystem because the amphibians start to get fucked up first, because they're just sensitive little guys, just tiny sensitive little guys. They get sick real quick. So now, let's get the general information out of the way. Chytrid fungus is technically an umbrella term. There are multiple kinds of Chytrid fungus, but usually it refers to the species of concern today. Gotta double check this pronunciation. Batrachochytrium dendrobatitis. Batrachochytrium dendrobatitis. Batrachochytrium dendrobatitis. I think I said that. Okay, a mouthful. So usually it's called BD. But I'm just gonna keep calling it Chytrid fungus, because now you know what the fuck is going on. This fungus has a worldwide distribution. It's been found on every continent except Antarctica. And that's only because amphibians don't live there. And as you would probably be able to guess, with the general pattern of how these things go, it has become such a widespread species because of human activity. Yes, almost always the culprit. Since the early mid-1900s, the fungus has spread across the globe, affecting amphibians to a level that can only be described as catastrophic. The most recent statistics I found were from 2019. At that point, about 700 species had been labeled as affected by the fungus, with it driving the decline of at least 500 species, 124 of which had declined by more than 90%, and 90 of those have gone extinct. In many species, the fungus has a 100% mortality rate, meaning once the individual is affected, it has a 100% chance of dying from it. I know this is not the most fun topic, but I promise I'm going to end the video with hope and ways to get involved with a specific conservation group called Planet Wild, so just stay with me. They're doing incredible things for amphibian conservation and nature protection in general. You're going to love them. So, why is Chytrid fungus so successful? Why is it so widespread and also so deadly? To understand that, we must first look at the life cycle of the fungus. Let's start with an infected body of water. Microscopic seeds of the fungus, called spores, spread through bodies of water in search of a host. They are free swimming, just swimming around. Then it finds a suitable host and it settles into the host's skin, attacking and eating away at it. This is bad because skin is very important for amphibians for a few reasons. When I first talked about Chytrid fungus on TikTok a couple years ago, I said that skin is very important for amphibians, and I didn't elaborate, and I got a few comments like, obviously skin is important for amphibians. Skin is important for everything that has skin, and that is valid. I should have elaborated, and that's my bad. So allow me to elaborate now. Skin is important for everything that has skin. It's the barrier that protects us from the outside elements, chemicals, viruses, UV radiation, etc. Injuries. Dude, imagine the impact of a rug burn without skin. Without skin, we would be screwed. There's no barrier more significant than skin, not even the Great Wall of China. So, amphibians use their skin for this purpose, among other things. Not only is it a protective barrier, but it is also a means of breathing. You might remember from frogs I think that you will like, that they have multiple ways of breathing. One of those is through their skin. They absorb oxygen, then expel carbon dioxide through their skin. They can also absorb water through their skin and create a layer of mucus to keep their skin nice and moist, so as to function properly. Those are the big ones. But their skin also has some really unique antimicrobial compounds. Like I mentioned, they can produce poison. Like a lot of them do that. They can also detect changes in pH and salinity through their skin. Skin. But the big ones are breathing and water absorption for the purpose of this video. So over time, the fungus grows on their skin, kind of eating away at its original properties and making it thicker. And eventually, it leaves them unable to breathe. While all of this is happening, the fungus is developing into the next stage of its life that you can kind of just think of as becoming pregnant with more spores, until eventually the those spores can be released in search of a new host, spreading and spreading and spreading their seed. They can be spread through water, once again, or through direct contact. And once the spores hit the water, the lake or pond is donezo, infected for good. And so if the host happens to travel to a new body of water, which obviously happens at the local level all the time, the fungus can spread pretty efficiently. Then add human activity to the picture and you've got yourselves a certified pandemic. Where exactly this fungus came from has been kind of hard to pin down. Initially, scientists looked at like 700 clawed frog specimens in the genus Xenopus that have been collected between 1879 to 1999 in southern Africa. They found the earliest case of Chytrid fungus in that sample from a frog that was collected in 1938. And overall, about 3% of the specimens in that sample were infected with Chytrid fungus. The earliest case of Chytrid fungus outside of the continent came from like 23 years after that. So it seems as though it was stable in southern Africa for a decent amount of time, like 2 decades, before quickly spreading across the globe, leading scientists to suggest it originated in southern Africa. The specimen the first case of Chytrid was found in belonged to the species Xenopus laevis, commonly known as the African clawed frog. In the 1930s, they started being shipped all over the world after scientists discovered that they can determine if a human is pregnant. 2 South African researchers found that if you inject the frogs with urine from pregnant women, the frogs start to ovulate. This became the first international pregnancy test. I know. What the fuck? I'm saying what you think I'm saying. The researchers believe that Chytrid fungus spread so rapidly and so widespread across the globe because every single country wanted a slice of those frogs to use them as pregnancy tests. This is the face of our first international pregnancy test. I keep second guessing myself, dude. I feel like I didn't read it in the paper right, but I also read it so many times to make sure that I was understanding it because I feel like this is fucking insane. So here's the paper if you want to read it and just confirm with me that I'm not making this shit up. I just can't believe it never came up in anything else I've ever read about Chytrid fungus, so it's throwing me off. But anyway, that's what the researchers found. They also acknowledged that their findings didn't necessarily find the origin of Chytrid fungus. I don't know if I said that. Did I say that they thought the origin? That it spread. It spread mostly from there, but it was not necessarily the origin. It was definitely present and seemingly stable there for a long time, but didn't necessarily first sprout there. And luckily, more recent research addresses this and has evidence for its origin in East Asia. Like I mentioned before, there are multiple kinds of Chytrid fungus, and East Asia is the hotspot for a lot of them. Scientists looked at the genomes of 177 samples of the fungus from across the globe, found that it likely originated on the Korean Peninsula and spread through the trade up to 100 years ago. What I really can't get over is the fact that a lot of people don't know that this disease and this fungus exists, and that it's affecting amphibians so much. I only first heard about it in my Biology 101 class in college from my professor Andrew Blvd, who has done a lot of research on Chytrid fungus, and he's the only professor I ever had that talked about it. But he's just one of those professors that you remember forever, you know? Like goofy, but super cool. Dude, I want to say that like every single lecture that I had in my animal behavior class with him was written in Comic Sans. Like all the PowerPoint presentations, Comic Sans. So he was just a character. I tried to get in contact with him to do a little interview for the video, but no luck. It is summer, so that's probably why. But I did find a paper that he published in 2022 on Chytrid fungus, some new research they did at Oregon State University. That's where I went. So I figured I'd go through it real quick just for fun. So the paper was looking at indirect consequences that the fungus or the presence of the fungus has on an ecosystem. You might remember trophic cascades from 9th grade biology. An example of it would be if you remove wolves from an ecosystem, suddenly the deer population will skyrocket because they're not being eaten by wolves. But then since there's a lot more deer, the vegetation they eat gets decimated because there's too many deer. So then the whole ecosystem gets fucked up. That's a simple example. Essentially adding or removing or impacting a piece of an ecosystem will affect the rest of it, and at the most basic level can affect the nutrient cycling in it. Since species evolve over millions of years, ecosystems evolve because those species are a part of it, and those species evolve based on changes in the ecosystem, etc. Everything is connected, you get it. So, the paper mentioned that the Chytrid fungus spores swimming around in the pond can be eaten by zooplankton, little tiny planktons, animal planktons.
What army? What army? Look around you, crab!
And that the spores can also affect the mouths of little baby tadpoles, making it harder for them to eat, reducing their chances of reaching adulthood. If you can't eat, you can't survive. They thought that the Chytrid fungus might affect the number of zooplankton and the survival and feeding abilities of tadpoles. This could in turn impact the algae that the zooplankton and tadpoles eat. They set up outdoor experiments with western toad larvae and Chytrid fungus. They found that Chytrid fungus infections reduced the amount of tadpoles, which slightly increased the amount of algae. Also, even when the number of larvae was the same, subs with Chytrid fungus had more algae, which means it was fucking up the tadpoles' mouths made it harder for them to eat algae. They also found more zooplankton in the tubs with Chytrid fungus, so the zooplankton were probably eating it. So what happened is exactly what you would expect to happen. And in real life scenarios, this could eventually alter the ecosystems on a much larger scale. I know that this video has been depressing, to say the least, but if you ever saw my water cats video, you know that I promised that if I ever ventured into the more sobering side of things, I would always leave you with some hope for the future, and also ways to get involved. That's what every major documentary is missing nowadays. They just leave you with depressing shit and call it awareness, which is obviously important, but I also want to give you direct access to the successful conservation on this side of things, and I'm keeping my promise with this video. So, in, I want to say 2015, a potential cure was found. A group of scientists in London, after 9 years of research, developed an antifungal treatment that can be applied to amphibians in captivity and also the wild. They also figured out a chemical disinfectant that can get rid of Chytrid fungus in the environment. So by using the antifungal treatment on the tadpoles and combining it with a decontaminant for their environment, they were able to clear the infection from tadpoles in the research period. Like, they were successful, which is awesome. It's a step in the right direction, but unfortunately it's not a complete cure, because disinfecting a Chytrid infested environment is gonna disinfect other helpful things in the environment. Like, it could fuck shit up, obviously. So it's a step in the right direction. There's also another approach that scientists are exploring, which is a living pharmacy. They genetically modified bacteria found on the frog's skin to boost their antifungal properties. Initial tests were awesome. It seemed great, but the skin of a frog is an ecosystem in itself, and the bacteria compete against each other. The modified bacteria couldn't compete with the native bacteria, and the modified bacteria got annihilated, wouldn't keep. So more research has to be done on the ecology of the frog's skin, but that is showing some promise as well. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, I have a conservation group that you can easily get involved with directly to help out, and I partnered with them for this video to spread the word. Planet Wild, a nature protection organization based in Berlin that works globally on a variety of different projects to protect endangered species, clean up waterways, and restore forests. Just last month, they announced a new mission they just launched to repopulate frogs in Ecuador that have been impacted by climate change, habitat loss, and of course the Chytrid fungus. They've partnered with the Ark of the Frogs, which is the largest tropical amphibian rescue facility, housing species that were thought to be extinct until recently. Their plan is to locate endangered and lost species, breed them in the rescue facility, and rebuild their wild population. And all of this is thanks to the Planet Wild members who funded the project. They're essentially doing crowdfunding for nature. You can sign up for just $6 a month, which is less than a single cup of coffee in LA right now, and that money goes directly to funding their projects. You can pledge more than $6 a month too, if you can, just whatever you want to donate. Their team travels to the project of the month, documents the work the community is financing on site, and shows the impact in videos that you can watch on their YouTube channel. You get to support conservation efforts and see the direct impacts of it every single month. It is positive, it is hopeful, it is important, it'll feel really good. And if that's not enough of an incentive to sign up, I have another one. The first 200 people to sign up will enjoy the first month of a Planet Wild membership paid for by me. So go sign up at the link in the description or this QR code. You will already have made an impact and see the results 30 days later. And if you don't feel like supporting Planet Wild anymore, you can cancel anytime. No questions asked. So go sign up at the link in the description and use code Lindsay7 to get your first month comped by me. Support real conservation and see the difference it's making, one project at a time. You can watch their latest mission here. And if you ever happen to find yourself in a place with amphibians, don't move them, don't release them, and just don't touch them. Leave them alone. Usually places that are dealing with Chytrid fungus have signs, but also maybe it hasn't been found there yet. So just leave animals alone in general, but especially just leave them alone. Clean your shoes. If you go to a pond, sterilize them, leave them alone. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next episode of the history of life on Earth that we know of, the Jurassic. Keep up with behind the scenes content and my Discord server on Patreon. And for now, stay curious. The world has a lot for us to learn. See ya!